Hey guys, and welcome to this video called Day 444, Donald Trump and Blood Moons. And in Isaiah 46:10 it says, declaring the end from the beginning. So 440 days from Revelation chapter 12. Anybody who doesn't know about the Revelation chapter 12 sign, which happened on the 23rd of September 2017, so obviously, I should say that this starts with the beginning premise that I believe that that is the sign for the rapture of the church, and I continue to believe that, and that is the basis on which I am counting from. So 444 days from September the 23rd, 2017 to the last day of Hanukkah, which is the 10th of December 2018, is 444 days. Strong's 444 is in Greek means mankind, and in Hebrew means corrupted. Jesus was crucified on a Wednesday, which is the fourth day. So the first day is Sunday, and the Wednesday is the fourth day. 4 is the center candelabrum of the menorah. And on the fourth day of creation, God created the sun, the moon, and the stars. In Genesis 7:11, which is the beginning of the flood, it says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were open. So that is in the second month, in the 17th day of the month. And in Genesis 8:14 is when the earth was dried, and that was in the second month, on the 7th and 20th day of the month was the earth dried. So 1 year and 10 days later was the earth dried up. So those are the bookends of the flood. And if we take the two numbers of the flood bookends, we have the day values, which are 17 plus 27, which is 44. And the month values, which are 2 plus 2, which is 4. So there we have 4 and 44, which is 444. And if we also take the day and month values together and we add those up, that's 217 plus 227, that is 444 as well. So I thought that was very interesting about the flood of Noah, and if we combine those numbers together, which are in the Bible. So 444 is also associated with Jesus' ministry. It's believed by some that Jesus' ministry started on the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur, where he reads the book of Isaiah. It says in Luke 4, it records this, and he came to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up to read. And there was delivered unto him a book of the prophet Isaiah. And when he had opened the book, he had found the place where it is written, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of the sight to the blind, and set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. And he closed the book and gave it again to the minister, and sat down, and the eyes of all them that were in the synagogue were fastened on him. And he began to say unto them, this day this scripture is fulfilled in your ears. So that was when Jesus proclaimed who he was, and a lot of people believe that was on the Day of Atonement, because that is in Leviticus 25 verses 10. It tells you about the setting of the captives free, and the Jubilee. So what Jesus was quoting was in Isaiah 61, which is, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives. So that is on Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement, if you read Leviticus 25 verses 10. And the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. And then, of course, that's where he stopped, and then his second coming is going to be, and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all that mourn. So from the Day of Atonement, which would have been in 26 AD, and the Day of Atonement in 26 AD was on the 10th of Tishri, which was a Wednesday, until the day of Passover, 3.5 years later, which was Wednesday, the 14th of Nisan. So from the 10th of Tishri in 26 AD until the 14th of Nisan in 30 AD, that's 3.5 years, is 44 months and 4 days. And what you have to remember is that there were 2 leap years in that period of time. From the day of his crucifixion, which was also Wednesday, the 14th of Nisan in 30 AD, until his ascension from the Mount of Olives on Iyar the 27th, would have been 44 days. So there's this 44 number, and that would have been 10 days before Pentecost. So from his crucifixion, he was obviously dead for 3 days and for 3 nights, and then he rose. And then so it was from his crucifixion, not from his resurrection, until until his ascension on the Mount of Olives was 44 days, which was 10 days before Pentecost. And Dwight A. Blevins, who wrote Music of the Appointed Times, he's done this study and this research, and he writes, in the 44th month, on the 14th day of the month, on the 4th day of the sevens, that is the week, Wednesday, 44 months and 4 days after it began, the ministry of Jesus as a physical man came to an end. On Passover, 14th of Nisan, 30 AD, his ministry spanned 44 months and 4 days, ending on Wednesday the 4th, 30 AD. Then, 44 days from the Wednesday crucifixion, he returned to the heavens. So I will link in Dwight A. Blevins' research and his study, but I found it very interesting that Jesus' ministry was for 44 months and 4 days. Okay, so the super blood moon, which is coming up in January. On January the 20th, there will be a super blood moon over the United States, and that's January the 21st in the UK. So it'll be in the early hours of the UK morning, which will be in the evening of January the 20th in the United States. And there are 42 days between this 440-day marker. So that is the last day of Hanukkah, when they're going to set up this altar. The Sanhedrins have invited 70 nations, as I'm sure you know if you watched the last video. They have invited 70 nations to come and participate, or to see the dedication of this altar, which is a dedication to the third temple, right? So the Jews are doing this in faith, and it's the first time that an altar is going to be set up in 2,000 years. So this is a big thing. And there are 42 days between that day, which is the last day of Hanukkah, which is the 8th day, also called the 8th day, and there are 42 days between that day and this January blood moon. And as we know, there are 42 months in tribulation. That's 2,520 days. So January the 20th, 2019, which is when the blood moon is happening, plus 2,520 days, lands us on Sunday, the 14th of December, 2025, which is the 24th of Kislev, which is Hanukkah. So if the peace deal is announced on January the 20th, which is obviously also when it's the second year anniversary of Donald Trump beginning his presidency on the 20th of January 2017. So from that period, if it's done on that day, on that blood moon, if we add 2,520 days, we come to Sunday, 14 December 2025, which is the 24th of Kislev, which is the eve of Hanukkah. So that fits perfectly with the 2,520 days. Okay, and this super blood moon will mark Donald Trump's second year in office. It will be his second year in office to the day. And it will also mark 72 years, 7 months, and 7 days from his birth date, when he was born in the very hour of a blood moon. So a lot of these Donald Trump prophecies had to do with how many sevens there were. The day that his presidency began, he was 70 years old, 7 months and 7 days from his birth date. But what they don't tell you is that he was born in the very hour of a blood moon, as I'll show you. If you have a look at if you have a look at the videos, if you have a look at my videos, the second most popular video is called Donald Trump Born in the Very Hour of a Blood Moon, and I cover this. Something else that people should be aware of is that 7, which is because Donald Trump, the so-called prophecies of Donald Trump were associated with the sevens, they automatically assume that 7 is good. And that's obviously not the case, because there are 7 years of tribulation, there are 7 seal judgments, there are 7 trumpet judgments, there are 7 bowls of wrath. Israel went into captivity for 70 years. So by no means should people just assume that 7 means good. It could very well be that God is telling us something with those numbers, but it doesn't necessarily mean good. So these Donald Trump prophecies have taken cognizance of the fact that he was born 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days before he took office on the 20th of January. But I hope that people are continuing to look at these things, because on his birth date was a blood moon, and exactly 72 years, 7 months, and 7 days from his birth date, there is another blood moon, which is on the 20th of January 2019. So we know that the peace deal of the century has been put off until early next year. And also, the area of the blood moon which occurred on Donald Trump's birthday was the exact location of Saturn on Donald Trump's first day in office. And I'm going to show you all this in a celestial program just now. So here you can see Donald Trump's birthday, which he himself has provided. It's not very clear, but you can see it's June the 14th, 1946 at 10:54 a.m. in the morning, and it was in Queens that he was born. I think that says Janus Hospital. So Donald Trump provided his own birth certificate when he accused Barack Obama of not having a birth certificate. So that certainly helped us see when he was born. So here we can see on this very day at 10:50, let's go to 10:56, which is where it said, and you can see that the blood moon is just about to, the moon is just about to enter into the penumbra. So as Donald Trump is born, so the blood moon happens, right, on that very day, June 14, 1946, and there's a blood moon that happens on the very day that Donald Trump is born at the foot of Ophiuchus. So Donald Trump would have been an hour old, and there would have been a blood red moon over Israel, right at the foot of Ophiuchus. So this is where the blood moon happened when Donald Trump was born. And in my celestial program, I can program to go forward 25,789 days, and that is from the birth date of Donald Trump until his first day in office. So I'm going to step forward 25,789 days from the birth date of Donald Trump until his first day in office. And as you can see, Saturn is right in that location on January the 20th, 2017. So going back, stepping backwards to the day that Donald Trump was born, where the blood moon happened, right there, okay, is June the 14th, 1946. Stepping forward to his first day in office is where Saturn was, January the 21st. January the 20th. Well, that's just one day. So just step backwards, step forwards, step backwards, step forward. So you can see that that on the very place that the blood moon happened on June the 14th, 1946, the very hour that Donald Trump was born is exactly where Saturn was located when Donald Trump began his presidency. So I thought you would find that interesting. Next month's blood moon, we can have a look and we can see that the blood moon is happening. There it is. The blood moon is happening as we'll just zoom in on that. It's happening in the crab again, the protected area. The crab is the representation of the cattle folds, the sheep folds. The deacons are Ursa Minor and Ursa Major. So if you read E.W. Bullinger's book, or which is The Witness of the Stars, or Francis Rolliston's Mazzaroth, you'll see that the names of the stars and the beehive cluster, this is the representation of the protected area. So guys, that is what I wanted to show you, and I wanted to share with you that I find that very interesting that that this is happening on Donald Trump's second year anniversary. So that'll be at midnight. Actually, you can see that goes into let's go and see when that actually goes in there. Yeah, midnight Eastern time. It will be a super blood red moon on the 20th to the 21st of January. So right on that as the day changes. So just going over what's happened since the last time I posted a video, which wasn't very long ago. George Bush, 41st President of the United States, dies at 94. So the man who announced a new world order on September the 11th, 1990 in front of Congress, and exactly 11 years later to the day is when the planes were flown into the World Trade Center, and the World Trade Center was brought down. So that was when all this began, before they went into Iraq, and all this chaos started with the Arab Spring that happened, and everything it's just been a perpetual war since then. So he has died, and he was a Skull and Bonesman, which was the secret society that that set up, or has wanted to set up the New World Order, and so he's not going to get to see it. And I always wondered if his death would be a sign of the rapture of the church and their Antichrist kingdom, which they have planned. So there's that. Then Alaska hit by a magnitude 7 earthquake. Huge earthquake in Alaska, which fortunately nobody died, but they say that the damage is going to exceed $100 million. And there are some pretty drastic pictures coming out of Alaska, and that place being shaken. So great earthquakes in diverse places. Then the Pope calls for a two-state solution. He had a meeting with Abbas, and Abbas basically asked the Pope to assist the Palestinians against Israel, and the Pope reiterated his position on a two-state solution, and Abbas left and said, "We are counting on you." So they are counting on the Pope. And it's no coincidence that the Roman Catholic Church has taken the side of the Palestinians. That's expected. That's what the Bible tells us, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth, which even tells us the color of the clothing that they're going to wear in Revelation chapter 17. And there they are supporting the fake propaganda bonanza called the Palestinian cause, and telling the Palestinians and the world that they support a two-state solution, so to divide the land of Israel. So this is coming. Then the United Nations Security Council to meet on Iranian ballistic missile test. Iran has just tested a ballistic missile which is capable of carrying a nuclear warhead, and the United Nations are busy meeting on that. So Iran is now capable of delivering a nuclear warhead to anywhere in the Middle East, obviously including Israel, and to some areas in Europe, and that's in contravention of the Iranian nuclear deal, which the US has obviously left and isn't a part of. But Iran have defied the calls to cease this behavior because they say that it's for self-defense only, and they say that they're going to continue to do so. Then, interestingly, the ring of the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, who it says here who crucified Jesus, but he didn't crucify Jesus. He actually did everything he could to prevent the crucifixion of Jesus. But they found his ring in a Herodian site in the West Bank. So, is that a sign? I think so. Incredible find that supports the biblical narrative, which is obviously the truthful narrative. The Bible is history; it's not a story. And that's interesting. I mean, it's incredible, guys. Like, at this time, the ring of the man who crucified Jesus is discovered at this very time. So definitely a sign, as far as I can tell. Then calls for Netanyahu to resign after Israeli police have recommended indictment on bribery. So Netanyahu has 3 bribery cases against him, and the police have recommended indicting him. So Netanyahu is in a pickle. He's calling it a witch hunt, like Donald Trump is also calling the Russia investigation a witch hunt. So there is pressure on these leaders and corruption allegations happening in America and in Israel. Then there's the riots which are happening in France. Incredible riots which are happening over there with these yellow jerseys or these yellow vests because they raised the tax on fuel. And it's just snowballed. And what they're very worried about is the fact that this is not an organized riot. There's no one that they can actually negotiate with. This is a social uprising, and they say that there's going to be more riots happening this weekend. So this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Revolution. France has obviously a history of revolution. And the uprising which is happening in France seems to be boiling over, and so we'll watch to see what happens this weekend, which is Saturday. They've planned another riot. I know Macron has said that they will put a pause on the tax hike on fuel, so they've put a pause on that for 6 months. But I don't think that's going to stop. I think there are much deeper rooted issues with the French society. So that's one to keep the eye on. Then attack tunnels from Lebanon. Israel robs Hezbollah of major offensive assets. Israel have launched this Operation Northern Shield to detect and discover Hezbollah tunnels which have been dug under the border, and they've already found one, and they were just about to destroy it. So this is happening. This is not Gaza. This is Hezbollah. This is Lebanon. So obviously they are a much stronger military, and that might poke the hornet's nest, if you will. So this is also something to keep a very close eye on, because they are busy going and discovering these things, and I'm sure they're going to report more tunnels which have been discovered, because Hezbollah are looking to attack Israel. And if there are several tunnels, and these tunnels cost millions of dollars, so if there are several tunnels, perhaps they're going to want to make use of them before they get destroyed. And then a NASA scientist says the Earth may have been visited by aliens. So this is the preparation of the great deception, which is coming. The wicked that shall be revealed after the rapture of the church, coming after the working of Satan with all deceivableness in unrighteousness, lying wonders, and all these kinds of things. So people are going to buy this alien agenda, hook, line, and sinker. Warn your friends, warn your family, warn the people who are around you that are not saved, that this is the agenda. There is an agenda. It doesn't matter how foolish you look, warn them, because your foolishness might save them from being deceived in tribulation. So Netanyahu's meeting with Pompeo is a warning to Iran. So they met, and this is looking like something's going to happen here, guys. So this was in response to Iran testing that missile, and they are now going to the United Nations. Well, they've gone to the United Nations, and the United Nations Security Council are meeting and discussing this as we speak. And then obviously the supermoon, which we've discussed. The supermoon is not. There's not going to be another supermoon until 2021. So keep that in mind. The next year's super blood moon on the 20th of January will be the only one until 2021. So if what John talks about the moon turning to blood in Revelation chapter 6 is a blood moon, then and obviously that's going to happen next month, and we're waiting for that deal. So those two events could collide. So guys, I hope you have enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the sky.